Welcome and thank you for joining us in another of GG+A's webinar series designed to help our client institutions and other organizations respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Kyle Gorden. I'm a consultant at GG+A, and I'm joined by our special guest, Francisco Fernández Gonzalez, Associate Vice President for Development at Tecnológico de Monterrey in Mexico. Francisco resides in Monterrey with his wife and 4 daughters. He previously held executive level positions in various nonprofit and for-profit organizations over the last 20 years, including Friesa Industries, Adises Institute Mexico, and Hombre Nuevo and Guadalupe Radio in Los Angeles. Francisco earned a master's degree in political science and nonprofit organizations from Francisco de Vitoria University in Madrid, Spain, and an industrial and systems engineering degree from Tec de Monterrey, as well as executive administration courses at IESE Business School, Harvard's Kennedy School, and Stanford University. He's a certified Adises consultant from the Adises Institute in Santa Barbara, and a certified coach from Newfield Consulting. In addition to this, he co-founded and is president of Comunidad, Monterrey's first community foundation. He also founded DOXA, an academic and psychopedagogic counseling center, as well as Esfuerzos Unidos, which seeks the integration of people with disabilities in the workplace. Thank you very much for joining us, Francisco. Delighted to have you. To start off with, I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about Tec de Monterrey and its profile in the higher education sector in Mexico. And then we're going to move into talking about your development program and particularly the very creative and inspiring response that you've had to the pandemic. But start off, tell us a little bit about the institution.
Thank you, Kyle. Well, Tec had a very humble start almost 77 years ago. A group of engaged citizens, businessmen, philanthropists, headed by Don Eugenio Arzazada, started this university. It was only 350 students with 2 majors in business and engineering was started. I don't know if we could share the slides. Is that possible? And really, Don Eugenio was inspired by, after he went to study to MIT. His degree in civil engineering was there, and he wanted to develop what we called Mexico's MIT. Very fast, Tec de Monterrey was, if I could be able to share them, there we go, excellent. Okay. So very fast, Tec de Monterrey was recognized academically. So other businessmen wanted to have their kids come to Monterrey and study. So they started coming from various cities from Mexico. And after their first 20 or 25 years, those families said, well, why don't we have what Monterrey has? They started looking at the impact that Tec de Monterrey had in Monterrey, in Nuevo León, in the state of Nuevo León, and they wanted also to replicate that in their cities. So a fast expansion in the 80s and 90s started at Tec de Monterrey. From 2 or 3 campuses, it grew up to 25 campuses in 24 cities. And they grew very, very fast. I think, would I be able to click on, there you go. I don't know would I be able to click on them or I just ask for them to be clicked? The slides.
Yeah, I think just ask it, he'll advance.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, that was the first building that we had here in the back of my profile. You can see the actual Monterrey campus right now, but in 1943, Tec de Monterrey looked like that with 350 students. Like I said, it grew very fast in the 80s and 90s. And because of that, now we have 25 campuses nationwide. If you can go to the next one. Tec de Monterrey community, after almost 77 years, are almost 500,000 people. Between students in the Tec de Monterrey, we have 90,000 with 10,000 professors, 30,000 in total co-workers. Like I said, 26 campuses, almost 300,000 alumni in 6 national schools. But we also have 2 medical academic schools, which really are 2 hospitals for our medical school, for our health school, with about 75,000 patients per year. And we have a sister university as well, which is Universidad Tec Milenio. Now with almost 60,000 students, 5,000 professors, and almost 30 campuses nationwide. So when we talk about Tec de Monterrey after these 77 years, we're talking about almost 500,000 people reached out between obviously alumni, students, board members, etc. So that's been a huge, and that's what Tec de Monterrey is. Now in the rankings, in 8 years, we've gone from number 306 to number 155 in the QS World University ranking. We're number 1 private university in Mexico, and worldwide we're number 28 private university. Also, something that we're very proud about is our entrepreneurship culture. We were not in the Princeton Review ranking because they just ranked US universities, but we knocked on their doors and they asked for us to be part of the ranking. And also in the last 5 years, we've gone in the top 10 of Princeton Review's entrepreneurs. And we're very, obviously, what we're most proud about is our alumni. In the QS rankings, we're also number 40 for employers' worldwide satisfaction. And if we can go to the next one, this one was a surprise even for us. We knocked in the doors of LinkedIn as a client for them, hiring talent. And they gave us this news that among the top 10 global companies, most attractive global companies for LinkedIn, Tec de Monterrey is among the top 5 from they recruit from. So that also talks about what the type and the level of alumni that we have in our university. So that's something like, in wrapping up what's Tec de Monterrey, also in alumni's impact. In the last years, 41% of them have started a company. There's entrepreneur culture, more than 200,000 companies, 2.8 million jobs. And I think that the most surprising statistic is that those companies' revenue builds almost 20% of Mexico's GDP. And also in the social, if you can do another click, in the social area, we can also see the participation of our alumni. 30,000 non-for-profit organizations funded by them. The one in red is something that we're working with you guys. That is something that I think we certainly can grow. Our alumni also are generous, but we know that it could be much more. Annually, we're about $30 million in donations from our alumni. So that's basically, we can have the slides down for a moment until we have, so we can chat a little bit comfortable, but that's Tec de Monterrey, Kyle.
That's amazing. I mean, our first introduction to tech was hearing that it was founded by an MIT graduate with the idea of sort of being Mexico's answer to MIT, but you've grown since then to become an institution of a scale that very few US institutions are at. There are a few institutions who may have close to your number of students, including all of their subsidiary campuses, but I don't think there are any US institutions that have what's between Tech and Tec Milenio, more than 50 campuses. And there are no US institutions that have campuses all across the country, right? I mean, there are some very large systems in Texas and California, but Tech is just huge across the entire country of Mexico in a way that is very different from how higher education works in the US. It makes you such a fascinating institution. So before we go into talk about the pandemic and your response to it, just tell us a little bit more about the fundraising baseline, and particularly what you've been raising money before in recent years as you've been working to institutionalize fundraising as a professional function at the university?
Yes, well, first of all, it's very important to say that philanthropy, it's in Tech's DNA. It's really how it was founded.
Mm-hmm.
And even we have, I think in its first 3 years of existence, the board of trustees, all of them philanthropists, started a raffle, which now we call the Tradicional Sorteo Tech. And since the beginning, that raffle was focused for scholarships, to be inclusive and to bring students with talent right from the start. You know? So that's important to know that really philanthropy is in the institution's DNA. Now, it was not maybe until about 10 years ago that a development area, as formally spoken in US terms and in an org chart, was recognized and was developed. 10 years ago, maybe it was basically a team of 10 people with lots of activities, but certainly with donors, corporate donors, few of them, and very focused, mainly to scholarships, and also because of the expansion that I talked about in the last question. It also started through philanthropy in every city. Those families that sent their kids to Tec de Monterrey and then went back and wanted a campus tech in their city. So they also donated part of the land, maybe the startup of some buildings. So also, since its expansion, philanthropy was there in Tech's DNA. No? But then coming now closer to our time, 10 years from now, the development area was created, 10 people approximately in that team. And now we have about 40 people in that team, in the central development team. Then through our campuses, we may double that amount of people involved in some way or the other, maybe not full-time in philanthropy, in fundraising. And then the same number of volunteers, many of them board members, you know, which also fundraise for the institution. And we'll talk about the executive team as well and the leaders in the institution. So we've been going from that, so like organic type of natural type of offspring from philanthropy to institutionalize, like you said, processes, structure, and ways of fundraising. You know? So now we have, for example, as co-workers, we launched our first campaign last year. Now 15% of those 30,000 co-workers, collaborators from Tech are recurrent donors. You know? Our board members, 5 years ago, and this may sound surprising for you guys in the US, but about 25% were donors. Now, more than 60% of them are donors. You know? We're talking about almost 500 board members that right. Tech has throughout its campuses and schools. You know? So that's basically where we come from. Now, we had a record year. We basically reached in Mexican pesos, almost 640 million pesos, which is a little bit above $30 million, you know, which makes us certainly one of the institutions in Mexico and Latin America to fundraise more. Now, the causes to which we fundraise basically are scholarships, capital projects in our different campuses, you know? And also we're starting to work with talent, basically endowed chairs, professorships. We're also working towards those elements, specifically also research. Now with COVID-19, we're working as a very unified unit throughout the university, trying to cope as many other universities with COVID-19.
Right. Well, so that's, of course, the reason why we particularly wanted to have you on for the webinar today, is to tell us a little about the university's role in the response to COVID-19 in Mexico nationally, and particularly the way that you as a development organization have pivoted to support that activity. It's really, I think, extraordinary in light of how we're seeing other institutions around the world respond.
Thank you, Kyle. Certainly. I mean, first and most, I mean, our empathy with all of our families, our health, co-workers and team members in the front lines. I mean, as you know, there's been lots of suffering, and this disease has really shaken our community. So first and most, our empathy with them, and really that's what charges and what ignites us every day to try to put our grain of salt and give our support to those people in the front lines. Now, if we could put the next slide. First, Tech's reaction was, before even thinking about fundraising, is let's be there. Let's be close to our community nationwide, since we have campuses in every important city in Mexico. And let's be close to our constituents, to those communities. And in each cities, Tech has some capabilities that certainly can help. We started counting in some way. It's very difficult to really count the amount of initiatives. That number should be even close now to 300. That Tech, through not only its schools, but also its operation areas, obviously its health system, was supporting local and also federal and national initiatives. No? And we can go all the way from, I mean, courses and webinars, obviously, which is in our nature, but also in other type of social and economic initiatives, supporting local communities and partnering with other organizations to support local needs. No? So that was really our first reaction. It was incredible to see. I mean, the institution developed 11 committees to resolve and attend the different needs, not only for Tech, but also for the communities that Tech is attending. No? So that was incredible to see. Now, going into fundraising, I remember having a conversation with Juan Pablo, my former boss, and he said, what do we do? We're in our last quarter. We were heads on a great year, but we still had lots of commitments to be fulfilled. And starting and looking at this, I mean, economic recession that was on the midst to happen, we were, I mean, hesitant on start to be close and not only try to commit or to close those commitments, but also to talk about the needs of Tec de Monterrey because of the pandemic. No? So I talked with one of our volunteers. We were closing a campaign in Monterrey. We had to close it before, 2 weeks before, but he still managed to close it very well. So I had a conversation with him and asked him, I mean, what did you do? What do you thought about it? Why in the middle of a pandemic are you doing this? And he gave me some ideas that, combined with a podcast that I heard from the Lilly Foundation, that said the dynamic of the podcast was just keep fundraising. We basically decided to be close to our donors, to tell them what we were doing at Tec de Monterrey, and to launch a campaign specifically with 2 funds. One focused obviously to the health issues, which was pretty local because we have the hospitals in Monterrey, but also starting a fund. We knew that our families were going to be in need of economic support. No? So that's basically our reaction. I remember inviting that volunteer to my team weekly session. I did an expanded weekly session with the regional directors. And I told him, I mean, help me to inspire my team to work during this pandemic and launch a new campaign on it. And I mean, it was incredible to see the team, how united it was. If we could do the next slide, turn to the next slide. Basically, this was the narrative of our campaign. It's called United We Can, Unidos Podemos. It was our first multi-institution, multi-cause, multi-audience campaign. We have never done that before, but we thought that if there was a moment to do it, it was in COVID-19. I mean, I highlight basically the spirit of this campaign, which is standing together and looking for that common good, even beyond Tech's needs, really. We were reaching out for the community needs. And if you can go to the next one, basically, there were 2 funds. One, those are in million pesos, mainly focused in our 2 hospitals, like I said. And then right from Tech's endowment, Tech put upfront basically that amount of pesos to say to the families and to the students, we are here for you. And we're trying and starting right now to match that endowment fund from Tec de Monterrey with our donors. And we're starting that campaign. I mean, just as an anecdote that also was incredible to see is that almost after a month we started with this campaign. Well, first of all, to say that this was done in about a month, the whole naming, campaign, funds, all the back office that that needs to happen, the project leaders, etc. after a campaign. So it was really fast. We had daily meetings with a task force team to do it. But after a month when we started the campaign, one of our board members from the Ciudad de Mexico campus, which is the CEO of a very important bank, BBVA, Bancomer in Mexico, said, you know what, you have these board members, I also have some board members. There's hospitals in every state that need to be equipped in order for them to receive COVID patients. Why don't we do a campaign together? And so we even did another campaign parallel to this one nationwide. And it was incredible. In 2 months, almost 5 million pesos were fundraised from both our board members and the bank's board members. We share some of our members. So it was an incredible reaction really from the whole community.
And really a public-private partnership, right? The fundraising effort extended beyond Tech itself, because although you have campuses across the country, your hospitals are only in Tec de Monterrey, so you were actually only in Monterrey, the city. So you became part of this larger effort to raise funds.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Which really, further positions the university as a national leader in the response to the pandemic.
Definitely. I mean, our health school is really a small school compared to other health schools in the nation. Even though it's very high quality. Last year, the students from a health school in Guadalajara were #1 nationwide in the standardized exam that all doctors need to take in order to start their practice. And so it's very recognized. But now with this pandemic, I mean, we certainly were very recognized nationwide. Yeah.
So before we move on and talk about the results, tell us a little bit about what's happened to your other fundraising in the meantime. Have other donations stopped? Have you continued to receive payments on existing pledges? How much of the attention of your organization was refocused onto this special effort?
Well, certainly many of our fourth quarter donations went in standby. Approximately in pesos, about 60 to 70 million pesos. Almost $3 million. But they were postponed, really canceled. We only had about a $50,000 gift, but many of them postponed, and postponed because they redirected their donation to another cause. Either to this funds that we have here, or to the one that I talked with which is called Juntos por la Salud, which is with the bank nationwide. So basically, those donations that were postponed were given as new donations because of these campaigns that we did. Certainly, if we wouldn't have done those campaigns, those funds wouldn't have come. And more than the funds, also new donors came in. If we can go to the next slide. I mean, we started also with I asked our annual campaign head to see what we can do to involve our community as a whole. And we started having these celebrations with a cause, barbecues with a cause. We even talked with our tech store director and told him if we could have a product for a cause. So we have now this mask, which is tagged by the campaign name. So at the end, we broadened our scope of donors as well doing these campaigns.
So what has the response been? I know you told me that you're thinking about the goal more in terms of number of donors and level of activity, but how much has been raised?
Basically, we've been raising, and it's funny, but what we were postponed, we raised, no?
Mm.
So approximately between $3 to $4 million, which was postponed for next year or next semester, is what we have funded through Unidos Podemos. No?
Mm. So essentially the funds that you would have raised during this time, you still expect to receive later, and instead in the meantime, you've redirected the cash flow basis towards these more immediate needs.
That's right, and I think that's the essence of what we've been learning from you guys and from many other. We're like sponges right now in this stage in our life in the development area. We learn every day a lot from what I call the major leagues of fundraising, which basically come from the U.S. We're very close to the U.S. as well, so we learn from you guys a lot. But yeah, we've learned that it's the essence is the relationship, the long-term relationship, and being close. And really the funds that you raise is just a consequence of that. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did. We basically opened a conversation to talk about our actual donors or even donors that didn't donate before to tech, just to
right.
talk to them about what we were doing and also telling them the stories behind what we were doing. Because at the end, behind all of those stories, there are people in the front lines risking their lives to save other ones. So at the end, that I think made a huge difference. Those funds we expect certainly to be coming in the next years, and we'll have certainly huge challenges in the next years. We're not naive, and we know the type of recession that we're heading into, that we are already into, and but we're very hopeful that we even go into the next gear of philanthropy in Mexico, which is businesses will be very focused just to save themselves during the next couple of years. But not necessarily the families that own those businesses. They have been, I mean, having this gains from their companies from decades. And talking to one of our donors, he said, I've told our board members, family members, that now we need to reach out to our personal wealth, not necessarily our company's philanthropy budget.
Right.
Because the causes will still be needed. Our scholarships will still be needed. Our buildings will still be needed. But so we're very hopeful to get into that next stage of maturity in philanthropy, not only in tech, but also in Mexico. As you know, tech, I think, drives quite a bit the philanthropy in Mexico.
Well, you know, it's an important distinction, I think, where at least for our U.S. audience, to understand many more of the large businesses in Mexico are closely held rather than being public corporations, as would be more common in the US. So a lot of your charitable dollars are coming from businesses, not from corporations, right? These are family owned, closely held businesses. And so although they're counted as donations from the business, you're really treating those as individual donors, right? So a different approach to how you think, particularly about the idea of corporate fundraising in Mexico.
Right. That's right.
So you mentioned before that this is your first fundraising or campaign that's has multiple priorities, multiple schools, multiple donors. I wonder if you can say something about what you have learned. And obviously, I'm aware you're in the thinking about phase for a comprehensive campaign on the US model, which was going to be a real culture shift from the sort of campaigning and fundraising that you have been doing previously, which was sort of one initiative at a time. So I wonder what you have learned from this effort that you'll then be able to apply to the larger, more truly comprehensive campaign yet to come.
Oh, definitely. There was an acceleration in the learning and in the journey that we had towards starting our comprehensive campaign. As you know, we've been talking with you guys for a couple of years now, and we're slowly influencing the institution and letting them know of the advantages of this concept of the comprehensive campaign, and having the scope and the depth of Tec de Monterrey in Mexico. It would be, I think, incredible the impact of a comprehensive campaign executed through Tec de Monterrey. So this Unidos Podemos campaign gave us the opportunity. We know that it's not going to be like that in a comprehensive campaign where everybody in the institution and outside the institution is talking about one same cause. But at the end, it was a good example for all of us, both inside and outside, that we certainly could do this transversal type of campaign and unite. I mean, the title of this slide is really the power of one, and one is in a bigger in a bigger font size because of that. Because at the end, when you unite yourself as a community, as an organization, as an institution, incredibly things happen. So I think we're prepared for that. I know that you guys are guiding us into that situation. 1 year ago, no, not even 1 year ago, a few months ago, you said maybe you can wait for a year to start your comprehensive campaign. And after this, I think that we all agree that Tec de Monterrey is ready to start its comprehensive campaign. And now with the change of our president, I think that it also is an interesting and a very good time to see which strategic projects plan there is, and from there support that strategic plan through philanthropy, through our comprehensive campaign.
Right. So, the thing that's so impressive, I think, is how quickly you were able to put this together, right? As we've been discussing, a comprehensive campaign, and you might even expect any campaign with multiple units, multiple priorities, multiple audiences would typically take years of planning. So how, what was the time frame here from the first idea or the decision, I guess, to conduct this campaign until publicly launching it? How much time elapsed?
Not more than a month.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the majority of my team is listening to this podcast, and there've been long days for all of us. But once again, I think that the purpose was there, always in our mind. And I mean, as you know, in a comprehensive campaign, it's not only the fundraising team; it's a communication team and marketing. It's the leaders of the projects, the research projects. Really to package them in a way that you can talk about it to donors. Obviously, the heads of the university. So I mean, it's and not to say the volunteers as well. So yeah, I mean, it was. I think that one of the comments that I heard from my team members is, Francisco, let's even though we had daily sessions through Zoom with even groups bigger than 30 persons. But at the end, that's the way we had a very aligned campaign from the beginning, and it could be launched in that way. I think that we also had the advantages of having everybody through this, not traveling, having time for this. Not only our team, but also even our donors. Normally, we have to wait 2 or 3 weeks for a donor to give us half an hour of his or her time. Now it was pretty fast to have a time slot for them to listen to what Tec was doing and to invite them into what we were doing.
Right. Yeah, well, and that's something that we've heard from a lot of institutions, but I don't know that there are many that have taken advantage of that to the degree that you have. It's really a testament to the agility and flexibility of your team that you were able to really seize that opportunity and create this campaign in such a sophisticated and successful way in such a short period of time. It's very impressive and really bodes well, I think, for the larger campaign yet to come. Well, I'm afraid we're a little over time already, so we're going to have to call it to a close. And I'm sorry we don't have time to take questions live from our audience during these webinars, but Francisco has agreed to answer any questions that you might like to submit after the fact. You can do that in the chat here or by email, and we will post the answers to questions on the webpage on the GG+A website, along with the recording of this webinar after the fact. So thank you very much, Francisco, for telling us about this story and everything that you're doing in Mexico. Thank you to all of our audience for watching, particularly those in the US and Canada who are in the middle of or going into a holiday weekend. We appreciate it and hope that you'll come back for more of our content in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kyle.